What's up, everybody? Welcome back. So, hope you're all having a great Go Battle weekend. All three leagues are back. I mean, they have been back over the last couple of days. And in today's video, I decided to feature Frenzy Plant CHESNAUGHT in the Open Great League. Obviously, Frenzy Plant being the new Comp Day move for CHESNAUGHT from the last weekend's Comp Day. Obviously, CHESNAUGHT was a pretty staple pick a couple of years ago when it first came into Pokemon Go. It was a pretty solid pick for the Open Great League, but then it kind of fell by the wayside a little bit. But I feel like with Frenzy Plant, it's definitely going to make it slightly better. And for this particular team comp, I'm going to be using Galarian Stunfisk on the lead with Trevenant as the close. It's going to be basically a double grass line, and I'm also going to be using Smackdown on CHESNAUGHT simply to provide coverage against those potential flyers or fire types that might switch into it. And I just want to bait out the anti-grass so that Trevenant can close towards endgame, right? And also this team, all three of these Pokemon are pretty weak to fire, so which is why obviously having Rock Slide on G-Fisk and of course having Smackdown on CHESNAUGHT really helps as well. So there's some really fun battles in here. Again, it's a pretty solid meta core of Trevenant and G-Fisk, but then again, Smackdown CHESNAUGHT definitely adds a little bit of spice to it. So like I said, there's some really fun battles in here, and let's get straight into it. Okay, moving on to the first battle here. I'm actually going to be using Alolan Golem in the first battle because, I mean, obviously Alolan Golem is a better anti-flyer and also kind of counters fire types as well, but I felt like overall G-Fisk could be better because it has more bulk to it and has more coverage against Charmers, etc., which is why I decided to switch it to G-Fisk from the second battle onwards. But anyways, as you can see, textbook, we baited out the Noctowl. I come back with my Alolan Golem here, and at this point, they're going to go for a move. It really doesn't matter what they do. I mean, if they go for Shadow Ball, it's going to do quite a bit of damage here, but I'm going to farm up as much as I can because those fast moves are hardly doing any damage to Alolan Golem, right? Because of that electric rock typing, it double resists flying type moves. We're able to get off the wild charge there, and out comes a Lantern, and I have a Trevenant in the back. I still have a Trevenant, right? And they also have Venusaur. I do have to watch out for them potentially trying to catch a Seed Bomb on their Venusaur. So I'm going to hold on to his energy here, and they do switch into their Venusaur. I'm just going to go for the Shadow Ball right away right now. Again, it's going to do massive neutral damage against Venusaur. Pretty much near one-shots it right here. And I still have a shield. I can safely shield this up and fully farm down. There's just basically nothing Lantern can do against a Trevenant, right? And I'm able to farm down. Even though we're at a shield deficit, we have so much of an energy advantage. I can just go for the back-to-back Seed Bombs here. The first one should get the shield, and the second one is going to do quite a bit of super effective damage. It's not going to KO, so I'm immediately going to probably switch into my Alolan Golem and do a bit of combo play and get off the wild charge. Could have gone for Stone Edge too. I mean, both are neutral against Lantern because of that water electric typing, and we're able to take the win there. But like I said, I just felt like I needed to switch it to G-Fisk in order to have more reliable matchups. I mean, Alolan Golem's great, but then again, you can't have like three frail Pokemon, even though CHESNAUGHT isn't as frail, but yeah, it would just increase a lot of bulk if you put G-Fisk in there. So I have G-Fisk into a Galvantula, as good as it gets. They make a switch into Swampert, and this is basically hard counter city right here because I just have the hard counters lined up perfectly, right? I can just go for the Seed Bomb here. I'm not sure why they're shielding, and this tells me this is probably a Sludge Wave, so I'm going to shield this up. They bait me with the Hydro Cannon, which is unfortunate, and now they actually have enough for a Sludge Wave, so I do have to respect it. I have to shield this, even though it's only neutral. It's not going to one-shot, but it actually ends up being an Earthquake, so in that case, it's absolutely beautiful because Trevenant completely walls this moveset of Swampert. But anyways, I'm just going to go for the Seed Bomb just before they can get to another move here. And then back in comes Galvantula. I'm just going to go for the Shadow Ball here. Could go possibly for the Seed Bomb Shield Bait, but I just wanted to play it safe and either get the shield or get the knockout, but they do shield that, which is fine. And they're going to go for a move right now. It's probably going to be a lunge, which is almost going to take out the Trevenant, but I'm able to survive just enough to get to a Seed Bomb. Even though this is resisted, it's still going to do some chip damage to a point where CHESNAUGHT can come in and farm down and Smackdown, right? And they have come in with their Azumarill. This is absolutely perfect, especially because of a little bit of an energy lead. I'm able to get to a Frenzy Plant here, which is going to do massive super effective damage. Obviously, Vine Whip is definitely preferable in this matchup, but at this point, there's absolutely no way they want to come back from that, and they decide to concede the match there. So, I mean, definitely against certain mud boys and water types, it definitely helps in having Vine Whip, but Smackdown isn't too bad either. So we have an Umbreon on the lead. This is a bit of a tricky situation because Umbreon I can't really switch out because one of my grass types is really good against Umbreon while the other isn't that great. So I'm forced to stay in with my G-Fisk here. I'm really hoping they don't have any anti-grass in the back. But anyways, Charge Move coming through. They probably have a poison, right? Typically, most Umbreons pair with Nidoqueen. So if they have a Nidoqueen in the back, that's going to be slightly tricky for me because G-Fisk is possibly my best Nidoqueen counter. But I can't really switch out either. I can't switch into my CHESNAUGHT, which is my hard Umbreon counter. So I'm just going to stay and go for as many Earthquakes as I can. And at this point, another Charge Move coming through. I do have to preserve the G-Fisk, so I do put up a shield right here. And then at this point, they actually make a switch into their Azumarill. This is absolutely perfect for me because they've basically given up switch advantage. And I have my Trevenant against their Azumarill. Even though we're at a bit of a shield disadvantage and also a little bit of an energy disadvantage, I'm not the best position to be in. I do call this play rough here. Most Azumarill are not running Ice Beam, or at least some of them aren't. So I just decided to call that they probably are not running Ice Beam and ends up being a play rough, which we can survive comfortably. And I go for the Seed Bomb here. They do shield that, ends up being a CMP tie. I decided to overfarm to ensure a CMP tie, so I don't want the Azumarill overfarming here. So I just kind of come in my Chestnaught here, and as expected, they have an Nidoqueen in the back, right? Immediately switching into my Galarian Stunfisk right now and trying to catch them off guard by going straight for the Earthquake. Hopefully they think it's a bait, but they don't. They don't fall for it. And at this point, I'm like, yep, we're so low on health. They're probably going to bait with Poison Fang, but they actually go for Earth Power. So they're making all the right calls here. I come back with my Chestnaught, go for the Frenzy Plant now. This will probably not one-shot. I'm really hoping it does. It doesn't. And because Smackdowns are resisted, I'm not able to take out the Nidoqueen in time, and I'm having to give up a final shield here, which is unfortunate. And this is where I make a bit of a mistake, right? Because Umbreon comes back in. I should have just gone for the Superpower, right? I was hoping that I would farm down the Umbreon, but I should have just gone for the Superpower because Azumarill was not close to a move. So even if I'd thrown the Superpower in spite of the debuff, we definitely could have survived the bubble damage long enough to basically smack down the Azumarill. So definitely a bit of a misplay on my part. But anyways, moving on to the next one here, we have a G-Fisk into a Trevenant right now. Trevenant is also a little bit of an issue for this team because Chestnaught obviously doesn't have a great matchup against it. G-Fisk gets an okay kind of neutral matchup against it, and I guess the best response to a Trevenant is probably my own Trevenant in this team comp. But anyways, we can definitely deal with it, right? So I'm just gonna go for the Rock Slide here. They are throwing the Seed Bombs right away, so I'm gonna try and catch the next Seed Bomb on my Chestnaught. Now the thing is, this isn't the worst matchup for Chestnaught, especially if you're running Smackdown, because Smackdown still does quite a bit of neutral damage. As you can see, it's really starting to chunk on Trevenant here, and they're just gonna go for another Seed Bomb. This is too soon to be a Shadow Ball. I can just let it go through, and at this point, we're gonna fully try to farm down here, and they barely are able to get to another move. This is gonna be another Seed Bomb. Unfortunate that I have to put up a shield here, which is okay, but we're absolutely loaded on energy. I'm just gonna blind throw the Frenzy Plant at whatever comes out because I don't want to risk getting taken out by one fast move. Ends up being a Shadow Victory Belt, so probably could have gone for the Superpower, but we do get a shield anyways, which ends up working out perfectly. I don't think I could have gotten off two moves, but I come in with my Trevenant here. They make a switch into their Bastiodon, so it's basically a double grass line. It's the Bastiodon double grass line in a different order, so they basically led with a grass type with Shadow Vic and Bastiodon in the back. But anyways, we go for the Earthquake, pretty much one-shots the Bastiodon. I'm not sure why they didn't shield that, and at this point this game is over because they're gonna have to shield this up. Rock Slide would pretty much one-shot or close to one-shot Shadow Vic from this range, and because they gave up a shield here, I can just safely come into my Trevenant and go for the Shadow Ball right now. This is absolutely going to destroy the Shadow Victory Bell. Honestly, even if we still had a shield left, even if we didn't, that would have been okay too, because unless they were running Sludge Bomb, there's no way they could have taken out Trevenant with the Leaf Blade or an Acid Spray, right? Anyways, moving on to the next battle here. Of course, these are only some rank 9, 10, 11 battles. I mean, as I mentioned in my previous video, I'm progressing very slowly this season, probably just playing like a few sets of battles every week. But anyways, moving into the next one here, we have our good old friend Walrein. Back in again, pretty solid lead actually. I don't really want to switch out in either of my Pokemon. I mean, I feel like Chestnaught has a decent matchup against it, especially with Smackdown. But anyways, I don't want to end up shielding those Icicle Spears here. So I do build up to the back-to-back Rock Slides. I go for the first one. I'm going to go for another one right now. It does get the shield immediately. Switching into my Chestnaught because I have to preserve my G-Fisk for a potential Flyer or a Charmer in the back, right? Anyways, I do shield up the Icicle Spear here and we're able to fully farm down. Not sure why they didn't switch out. But anyways, they actually come in with their Caesar. This is actually pretty good for Chestnaught because these Smackdowns are really adding up against the Shadow Caesar. It's going to be a Night Slash here, which is resisted because of the fighting typing. If they had X's, that probably would have taken out Chestnaught because that is neutral because of the fighting grass typing. But I'm able to get to a second Superpower as well. This is absolutely incredible because even though debuffed, this will still take out the Shadow Caesar. So we have basically both Switch and Shield advantage, which is not great because they have an Obstagoon in the back. And this is a pretty problematic situation, right? Because my Chestnaught is my only Obstagoon counter in this team. Scrafty can definitely also be a bit of a problem for this team for sure. Like I said, it's not the most perfect team comp out there, but it definitely works in a lot of situations. I mean, definitely, I guess the true test of it would be probably in the higher ranks, right? I do let the first Night Slash go through. I'm going to shield the second one. Here, I didn't shield the first one, obviously, just in case they got the boost. I'm not sure why I'm over-farming. I just thought at the time they had another Pokemon left. I actually think I threw on CMP here. That was pretty close. That was probably pretty dumb because I should have thrown it a little bit before. But I thought for some reason that they had another Pokemon in the back and I needed a bit of an energy lead on Trevenant. Moving on to the next one here, we have an Altaria in the lead. Exactly where you want to see an Altaria against this team comp. They make a switch into their Galarian Stunfisk. I go immediately into my Chestnaught. Now the Chestnaught versus Galarian Stunfisk matchup is usually very heavily the odds are heavily stacked up in favor of Chestnaught, right? But Especially when you're running SmackDown, that is still double resisted, and you're not going to be able to get to those charge moves as quickly. So it's not as straightforward as the matchup as you'd think it is. I probably, in hindsight, should have switched into my Trevenant. But anyways, I do shield no shield the Rock Slide as well, and I'm going to go for the Super Power. I did bait with Frenzy Plant because I don't want to debuff my attack or defense. And now, as you can see, Super Power just does so much damage, right? And these mud shots, even though we're debuffed, are not doing too much damage. So I'm actually going to shield this up because switch advantage is really important, because I need to line up my G-Fisk against their Altaria. So I do go for the superpower here. If they want to win switch advantage, they have to give up both their shields, which they do decide to do, and that's absolutely okay by me as well. I'm going to basically come in my Trevenant, and they basically give up switch advantage to just bring back Altaria, and that ends up working out perfectly for me because I can just come in with my Galarian Stunfisk, and this is beautiful, right? Because again, I just don't have to shield the thing. Everything here is resisted. It's going to be a Sky Attack, which is absolutely fine. I'm going to overfarm as much as I can. They're not in Rock Slide range yet. They're probably a little bit. I probably need to throw another Rock Slide, as you can see there. I mean, I'm not going to be able to Mud Shard on an Altaria, right? I just want to throw the next one before they can get to another move here. So just going to go, throw this as soon as I can. And they have a Lantern in the back, and that's absolutely perfect for me because all I need to do is basically come in with my Trevenant. I do farm up all the... I could have probably gotten to an Earthquake, but I wasn't quite sure because they are running Water Gun, which is kind of tricky. And at this point, I really don't have to shield anything, but yeah. It is just going to be a Surf, which is absolutely fine. I'm just going to throw the Seed Bomb here, and this is going to be taking out the Lantern from this range. And yeah, basically back in comes G-Fisk, and we're able to fully Shadow Claw down there. So Lantern, definitely not an issue at all for this team. I mean, all three of these Pokemon are pretty solid matchups against it. Moving on to the next one, we have another Altaria lead here. Absolutely beautiful. Exactly where you want to see it. This time they're not switching out, interestingly enough. So I'm holding on to that energy because I don't want to have them catch that on something else. But I do overfarm a little bit and then throw the first Rock Slide here. And I'm surprised they are staying in, which tells me that they probably could have another Pokemon in the back, which is weak to G-Fisk, which is why they probably are deciding to sack the Altaria on the lead, right? I'm going to go for another Rock Slide here. They do shield that, which is very interesting. And ends up being, I think, a CMP tie here. It is going to be a Sky Attack, and it is a CMP tie, so I'm able to get to another Rock Slide as well. This is probably not going to KO once again because of how bulky Altaria is, but they do shield once again. That's very interesting. And now they make a switch into their Whiscash. They have no more shields. I'm not sure what they were trying to do there because I can just come in, and I'm just going to go for the Seed Bomb just before they can get to a Blizzard here. This will absolutely one-shot the Whiscash, and then back in comes Altaria. I'm just going to actually go for the full hard farm down here. We're going to take a lot of damage from Dragon Breaths, but we still have 2 shields, and Trevenant with a little bit of an energy advantage is absolutely devastating. I'm going to fully farm down here, and we are able to farm down, and they have an Azumarill in the back, and this game is over. We almost have like 3 Seed Bomb, 2.5 Seed Bombs right now. So I go for the first Seed Bomb here. I'm going to farm up to back-to-back once again, and I'm going to go for this back-to-back Seed Bombs. So probably Chesnaught wasn't even needed in this particular matchup. I don't think they played that correctly though, because I mean, they probably shouldn't have invested both their shields on Altaria. It was basically an Altaria double water line, in which case they probably should have switched right away because they had 2 counters to the G-Fisk. So definitely I got a bit lucky there. Moving on to the next one here, we have G-Fisk into a Medicham, another difficult Pokemon to deal with because Chesnaught doesn't have a great matchup against it, especially with Smackdown, right? It's going to take forever to get to a move, and Frenzy Plant is the only thing I have which hits neutral against Medicham. And Ice Punch is super effective there, so I'm going to go for the Frenzy Plant right away to hopefully draw a shield or do quite a bit of neutral damage. And it does give the shield, which is fine. At this point, I'm actually going to basically sack the Chesnaught. We did win switch shield advantage. So I'm going to fully wait out the switch clock here and then come into my Trevenant because I don't want my... They obviously have a ghost counter in the back, right? And I'm going to have to shield this Ice Punch here. It's going to do quite a bit of super effective damage. And I'm going to overfarm as much as I can. I don't throw because I just want to farm this Medicham all the way down. And I shield, they for some reason go for Dynamic Punch, so I probably would have been better off letting that go and they have a Mandibuzz in the back. This is absolutely perfect because now I can avoid my Trevenant. I mean, I can keep my Trevenant away from the Mandibuzz, right? I have my G-Fisk against the Mandibuzz. Even with the shield disadvantage, this is a pretty decent matchup for G-Fisk. Not as straightforward though, because those Shadow Balls and Foul Plays are definitely going to start adding up. As you can see, I mean, with Snarl, the energy generation is quite quick, and they are able to get to another Foul Play here. I'm just going to try and build up to the back-to-back Rock Slides. I definitely need to land at least one of these so that it puts it into basically Seed Bomb or Shadow Ball range, right, for my Trevenant. So I do one extra Mud Shot there to try and throw in the middle of the Snarl, and I go for the Rock Slide there, and they make a switch immediately into their Medicham. I'm going to fully farm down here. We're basically absolutely loaded on energy, and if they come back with their Mandibuzz, I'm going to go for the Seed Bomb here. The Seed Bomb probably is not enough to KO. It isn't, so I'm able to get to another Seed Bomb on CMP tie here. I probably should have thrown the Shadow Ball. I don't know if that would have been enough, but again, back-to-back Seed Bombs works. And let's see what they have in the back. They have a Shadow Swampert in the back, and this is absolutely beautiful. I mean, honestly, if the Foul Play had landed, this would have been game over. But luckily, we have a Seed Bomb ready to go and absolutely one-shots the Shadow Swampert. and that's going to take the win for us there. So moving on to the next one here, we have Galarian Stunfisk into a Grand Ball. This is again one of those matchups where obviously having G-Fisk with that steel typing really helps. They make a switch into their Shadow Machamp. I have a Trevenant, which is a pretty hard counter to a Shadow Machamp here. I do have to watch out for Rock Slide and Payback, obviously. It was too soon to be Payback, but still Rock Slide will do quite a bit of damage. I farm up a little bit more and go for the Seed Bomb here, and this should draw the shield from Shadow Machamp. And now I'm going to fully farm down. I'm okay giving up a shield, giving up an extra shield, because again, Trevenant with loaded energy is absolutely devastating. So going to fully farm down here, and that's perfect for me. And let's see what they decide to come in with right now. They actually come back with their Grand Ball. This is perfect for me. I'm actually going to go for the Seed Bomb here to try and get a shield, because if they do give up a shield, I can go for the Shadow Ball. But they actually don't. So I'm immediately going to go for the Seed Bomb, and they make an incredible catch on their Alolan Marowak. So really good play on their part, but I can come in my G-Fisk here. We still have a lot of health and a little bit of energy on G-Fisk. So I go for the Rock Slide. This does draw the shield from the Alolan Marowak. They're probably going to go for a Bone Club right now. And I'm really hoping I can get to another Rock Slide before they can get to another Bone Club here. And I'm able to get to a Rock Slide. This is going to do massive, super effective damage against the Alolan Marowak. Doesn't quite take it out though, which is why they are forced to go for the Bone Club here. And Bone Club is going to be taking out my G-Fisk. I can basically come in my Chestnut, do one Smackdown, and this is going to be very interesting, right? I'm barely able to get to a superpower. As you can see, Charm absolutely destroyed the Chestnut, but I'm barely able to get to a superpower there. That probably shouldn't have been as close. I mean, obviously the fact that they caught a Seed Bomb on their Marowak made it all the more closer, but yeah, it should have been a lot more straightforward there. Anyways, moving on to the next one, we have a G-Fisk Mirror. Honestly, I have two decent responses to G-Fisk in the back. So I'm actually going to try and catch an Earthquake on my Chestnut here. I'm really hoping they went for the Earthquake, but they actually decided to bait with Rock Slide. But either way, that's fine. Both of them are resisted. And as you can see, we bait out the Flyer, and that's perfect, right? As you can see, these Smackdowns are absolutely chunking the Pelipper. And I'm going for a Superpower here to try and draw a shield, but they know that it's a Superpower. They don't shield that, and they end up winning Switch Advantage without giving a shield. So that was very smart play on their part. I know they're absolutely loaded. They're probably going to blind throw the Weather Ball, which is why I bring in my Trevenant. And also, it's easier to farm down the Pelipper with Shadow Claw rather than trying to farm it down with Mud Shot, right? Back in comes Galarian Stunfisk right now. I do have to respect whatever this is. It's probably going to be a Rock Slide. It is right there. And then I'm going to overfarm a little bit. I'm going to try and catch the Rock Slide on my G-Fisk, but I just didn't time it correctly. I was really trying to catch the Rock Slide there. But immediately switching to my own G-Fisk right now, going for the Earthquake to hopefully catch them off guard. But they actually end up letting that go through, which is really interesting. And they're saving both their shields for Frost Lash, and this is fine for me because Trevenant is absolutely loaded as well. And I'm going to go for the Rock Slide to try and get the first shield here. All I need to do is basically get one more shield from them, right? I'm going to try and get to this Rock Slide, but we're not able to get to it, or we lose CMP tie. Now this is okay. Whatever this is, we can barely survive it, and we're able to get to a Rock Slide. This is either going to get the final shield or do massive super effective damage against Frost Slash. They smartly choose to let that go through because Shadow Ball from Trevenant would probably one-shot, right? But that's fine because we have two Seed Bombs anyways, and we have a shield as well. So I'm going to go with the first Seed Bomb here. This is going to get the shield, and the second Seed Bomb will be taking out the Frost Slash. This is actually a good play on their part because if they had shielded Rock Slide twice, then I could have Shadow Balled them, but because we had so much energy, we were able to get to the back-to-back Seed Bombs anyways. So moving on to what I believe is the final battle of the video, we have a Galarian Stunfisk into an Azumarill, a pretty negative lead, but we have two grass types in the back. I can safely switch into my Chestnut and they come in with their Altaria here. So this is a pretty solid situation to be in because again, this is exactly what you want to do. You want to bait out the Flyer, but in this situation, I do also want to win Switch Advantage because I want to have my Trevenant on their Azumarill, right? But I go for the Frenzy Plant here just so I don't get the debuff. We do get a shield, which is even better as well. And now this is where I make a bit of a mistake. I should have thrown that superpower right away to try and force them to shield because at this point, I'm trying to get to the back-to-back. I know I can't get to it, right? I mean, even if I had thrown it or hadn't thrown it, or even if we hadn't got the debuff, I wouldn't have got the back-to-back. So I should have thrown it right away to try and force them to shield. But at this point, I'm at a shield deficit, which is not ideal because again, Trevenant against an Azumarill, the shieldless advantage is not the best position to be in. I go for the Seed Bomb there, and they go for a move. I'm hoping they're not running Ice Beam, hoping this is just a play rough. It is just a play rough. It does quite a bit of neutral damage. Go for the Seed Bomb. They make an incredible catch on their Kanto Ninetales. That pretty much seals the game for them because honestly, I should have held on to that energy and probably gone for the Shadow Ball or just immediately switched out because them catching that move there kind of ended up being costly for me, right? Because now at this point, I'm not going to get to two moves on my G-Fisk and I don't have shields either. So they're going to go for an overheat here and absolutely one-shots. I come in with my Trevenant right now, hoping to get to a move and we're barely able to get to a Seed Bomb. Unfortunately, this is not going to be enough to KO, and even if it is, they still have an Azumarill in the back. So a couple of key mistakes on my part. I thought they played that brilliantly, but anyways, we finished with a 4-1 set. Like I said, a pretty decent team comp. Again, you can't read too much into it in these earlier ranks, but I definitely feel that this has a lot more potential in the higher ranks as well. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing rest of your weekend when it comes to Go Battle Weekend, and I'll catch you next time.